You can go back and listen to our rich catalog. Before Lauren came on, I interviewed...
So really, if you're just sick of my voice, you can listen to lots of Christina-only episodes.
That's not what I meant! God. Sorry, I didn't realize I had to let you in. God.
Oh my God.
It's too much responsibility.
It's like I have to knock on your door. I can't just barge in.
I don't know about you, but I get really nervous before I do these things. And so like 15 minutes before, I feel like I have to be glued to my computer just in case.
Uh-huh. For me, I feel like I habitually misjudge. Like today, I thought, oh, I've got 20 minutes. I can take Pico out and still have time to come and get ready. But Pico decided to sniff at every single blade of grass. And suddenly I realized, like, I have 4 minutes to come in and get done.
Oh, no. I'm trying to turn my volume down. Oh, there we go. I don't know how to do technology.
That's okay. I was listening to our last episode and was thinking, maybe I'm going to try and, I don't know, like move my setup in my bedroom for this, just for recording, because it's so echoey.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've continuously battled.
Yeah, and I know it's just because I have that huge open space where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I've been to your apartment. There's a lot of open spaces. It's very echoey.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
I could record in the walk-in closet.
Well, this Riverside has an echo cancellation feature. I've never tried it though, because I'm kind of skeptical.
I see it. Do you think I should turn it on and see if it
turn it on?
Anything?
See what happens. All right, say something.
Oh, this can't be. It says this can't be changed while recording.
Oh, should I stop recording and you can turn it on?
Yes,
I'm going to stop recording. All right, echo cancellation has been turned on.
Okay, we'll see if that helps.
It sounds kind of the same to me.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to an episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where imperfect people have imperfect conversations. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
And we hopefully
we'll have a guest next week.
I was gonna say, and we're here to make you feel less alone, but it didn't come out that way at all.
But we do that. We hope.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we do these days. But we did try to get a guest this week.
Yes, and it sounds like she wasn't able to this week, but most likely next week. So that's not bad. Only taking one extra week to get a guest didn't take us like 3 extra months. So
well, we have 2 potential guests. Actually, Orion said he also wanted to be a guest. In addition to Vicky, your friend. Well, our friend. God.
Yeah.
I wanted to get the housekeeping out of the way in the beginning this time because we waited till the very end last time, and I want to be in people's faces about it. So like maybe they'll want to be a guest if we're in their face. That's how that works, right?
Yes. And also if they know, like, I'm getting bored of listening to these 2 talk. Is anybody else ever going to show up? They know right away, like, oh yeah, next week I could hear a guest.
Well, if you really are that sick of hearing our voices, you can go back and listen to our rich catalog. Before Lauren came on, I interviewed...
So really, if you're just sick of my voice, you can listen to lots of Christina-only episodes.
That's not what I meant! God.
You can listen to my first episode where Pico jingles a lot. That's something else.
I listened to our 100th episode again the other day, and it was a mistake. Okay, this is so embarrassing. I listen to our own podcast sometimes, like to fall asleep, because I don't, when I have something else on, like I get so invested in it that I don't want to turn it off and I can't go to sleep. And if it's music, it works, but I have to stay up to make sure it's like, it doesn't go to something I don't want to hear. Like I'm very particular. And so when it's our podcast, like I've heard every episode a million times. And so it's just like, that's not like narcissistic, is it?
I feel like it's the same thing as like my roommate has to fall asleep to the TV, but she watches TV at night, something she hasn't seen, but then she has to turn it to something like that has run over like 8-10 times so that it's nothing she's missing. Yeah.
What are the shows that you do that with?
Well, I do not fall asleep to TV, but if they're background noise, my absolute go-to is Arrested Development. I could probably quote that word for word.
Oh my God, I'm rewatching it right now with Brett.
Oh, nice. I always love that.
It's so funny.
I seriously think, like, my hot take is, I mean, I know it came back later and had new seasons that were okay-ish, but the original run, the 3 seasons, is the best television that's ever existed. It's the most perfect
the more I
television.
watch, the more I'm inclined to agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually just read Portia de Rossi's memoir for the second time.
Oh, I read that once. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called Unbearable Lightness.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, she talks about her experiences with anorexia and being gay, being a closeted gay woman in the entertainment industry in like the late 90s, early 2000s, which was a very toxic time.
Yes, and especially because, I mean, she is beautiful and she was being made to be, you know, like a female sex symbol. So that had to be really hard for her.
Yeah, I mean, I'd read it before, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, but this was the first time I'd read it, like, after realizing that I'm gay, and so I got a lot out of it in that regard. And also, it was really depressing, like, reading about her experiences, like, some of the rock bottoms she had, and recognizing them as experiences that I have had. And, like, in the past, when I read it, I was in the middle of it, and I just wanted someone to relate to. And now that I'm in recovery, reading it, it just makes me really sad. And also it made me kind of worried because, like, she had a lot of health consequences that she was unaware of. And it took, like, her finally going to the doctor and they told her all this shit. And I haven't done that ever. Like, I haven't really gone back to the doctor since I got out of treatment and have had a few relapses. So that's something I'm afraid of.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I mean, you have been to treatment a few years before, and I know they, at least for me, it seems like they're always more thorough than a doctor in knowing like potential health consequences to look for. So
that's true. Sometimes I would go to like a normal doctor and I would be really sick and they would just not even really say anything about it because I was there for something else.
Quick story about that. When I was in the psych ward for the weekend, they did, you know, like a whole panel of blood tests at some point. And they come back, and that was after I'd been there a few days, and of course I was like super miserable, and, you know, and I told them flat up that I was just like, obviously had restricted my intake down to nothing and was severely dehydrated, and I knew it, so I was just letting them know. But so they are going over the blood work, and, you know, and she's coming at it with all that, and knowing, you know, some of my history with eating disorders in general, then she was just kind of saying like, oh, you know, like this is off and this is off, but that's kind of expected, giving what you told me. And one of the things is they test for ketones in your urine. Oh,
that sounds familiar. Why does that sound familiar?
Well, I mean, it's the basis of the, you know, the whole stupid keto diet. Not that I have an opinion on that, but
maybe we'll put out a bonus episode where we break down the keto diet.
Yes, but
shut all over it.
Yeah, it's like the more ketones in your urine, the more that, I don't know, like something is breaking down, and generally it's for diabetics, and it's saying, you know, like you are getting close to a diabetic coma. And, you know, the higher this is. So you don't want those. In eating disorder treatment, I had tested with, like, positive for that usually. But this is, like, the highest number that I had ever seen on that sort of test. And, you know, and I looked it up because I was curious. Because I was like, that actually seems concerning. And she just, you know, waved it off as, like, oh, yeah, that's to be expected because of what you told me. I was like, all right. And I actually looked it up and I was like, that's the level where they say, get to an ER now. You're in danger of diabetic coma. So yeah, that's regular people sometimes missing things.
Yeah. I don't know what to take out of that story except I don't really trust doctors.
It's just, I think
but I should.
Yeah, I think it's just saying that I feel like for certain things, like if a doctor's not specializing in it, they don't know what to look for.
Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah.
So if you can't afford a specialist, you're kind of fucked. Sorry.
Sorry. No.
I'm in a very pessimistic mood this weekend.
That's fine. My topic will go with a very pessimistic mood.
I love it. I can't wait. Okay, do we have any more housekeeping stuff first?
No
Should
housekeeping.
We do another call out?
I haven't. Call out?
For guests. You did such a good job doing it last week.
Oh, of course. You're like, you did such a good job. That's why I'm totally clueless when you ask this time. I'm like, what?
I guess I should just let it happen organically.
But I think at least maybe before we tangented, which we are good at, I feel like we started to do that. We said, like we're saying this up top. Anyone that wants to be a guest, please
listen.
Let us know.
We're desperate.
Let us know. Yes. We'll do our...
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke. No. We'll do our early promotion plug, be like Pickles and Vodka Podcast on Instagram. And we have a Facebook that I would check more often if I thought people were going to say, hey, I want to be a guest. We have Pickles and Vodka Podcast at Gmail.
Yes, listen.
Say I want to be a guest.
We want to talk to each people other than ourselves. If you're tired of hearing our voices, just imagine how we feel. So come on the podcast, tell us about your life, and maybe you can help someone feel less alone, and we'll have a fun time.
Yeah.
Find us.
Don't we sound fun?
We're oodles of fun.
Silence. Oh.
I should have let it be silent.
I know.
Okay, I'm done with that, honestly.
Okay.
Life updates.
Yes. So I'm just going to get right to it. What we are all waiting for. There's a huge work farm animal update.
Oh my God, I can't wait for this. Oh, are you going to tell them what you texted me earlier this week?
Oh yeah, I'm looking up the picture so I can get the exact wording.
Oh my
God. Last week we get this big, priority mailbox delivered to our office, addressed to our office, and also the return address is our office, so we can't, know where it came from or anything. Inside are these kind of like medium-sized manila envelopes addressed to each employee, and they're not totally flat, so they clearly have something in them. So our office manager decided, because I think we all were kind of suspecting this might be a farm animal update.
Can you recap it real quick if people don't know what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, especially...
I'm going to take a noisy sip of coffee while you do that.
Okay. Especially listen to episode, I believe, 132, where we go into it in detail. But basically, these little tiny, plastic or... I thought they were ceramic, but maybe just shiny plastic farm animals.
Mixed media.
Yeah. Have started showing up, I think around early June, they said. It was while I was out.
I didn't realize it had been that long.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was an army of them by the time I got back, and it's continued. These little tiny farm animals have started showing up hidden around our office. They'll just be sitting on someone's computer when they come in. Someone found one just inside the door of the boys' bathroom. And which I said, does not point to a male, especially just inside the door. If I was a female, I would wait until I thought no one was in there and I'd stick it in there to throw people off. But
I'm just laughing at the way you said boys' bathroom. I don't know why. It continue.
The men's bathroom. But, so these little farm animals have been showing up, and no one is admitting to it. Everybody in our office has been accused at some point, and they just keep showing up. And again, if you go to our Instagram, there's a picture of them. I feel like it can't totally be appreciated until you see the extent to which
you need to send more pictures with more angles so people can really appreciate the scope of this undertaking.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be sure to take some more because people get bored and they arrange them in patterns on our lunch break now, so I can have different shots.
Yeah, we're going to need some examples of that.
But anyway, for everyone that's already in the know and has been anxiously awaiting. So we got these envelopes addressed to each employee, and we open them up, and each one has a tiny little farm animal in it. Different ones. Mine had a turtle.
Oh!
Yeah, the turtles were my favorite, too. They're really cute. And we all got a note that says, "Who is behind the animals? The question has been asked and will soon be answered. Get ready for a scavenger hunt. Wednesday, September 20th at high noon."
Oh, yeah,
Put the dice away. Yeah. Put the dice away for the day, because normally on Wednesdays, our office plays a dice game. And get ready for a different game to play.
Oh my God.
That's what we got.
Okay, so there's a few things that this tells me.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
It tells me that this is someone who is maybe in charge of, like, the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone who knows you, because they knew you like turtles.
That was, like a lot of us noticed that we got ones we had mentioned that we either particularly liked or found particularly creepy.
How far up did this go?
Someone's listening to what we're commenting on. We had suggested some people outside of the office too, like maybe, like some of the people in the neighboring offices. Like one of them, because the office next to us is actually the woman that owns the entire building. So she's been over a lot. Now, and she's very nice.
Is this happening in other offices? Have you interviewed the building?
I think they were looking to see, and they didn't find that anybody else was, but it is hard, I think, to just like walk into a random office and be like, are you getting farm animals?
Yeah, it's got to be an inside job. And that brings me to my next question, which is there a person that did not receive an envelope?
No, everyone received one, but even though we opened them in the office, they were addressed to our individual homes.
What?
So
that means it's someone with access to records.
Yes, that's what we thought. It did get a little wider because our office manager mentioned that recently she had asked everybody and she published an office directory. So everyone does have access.
Okay.
But I would still cut out the people that are not particularly like share file savvy.
Got it.
Because there's going to be some people I know in the office that are like, what? I could have found everybody's address.
Well, this person needs to be savvy in general to pull off what they've pulled off.
Oh, for sure. And we have different schedules too. I think that's why people were originally getting blamed because, some people are always like the first person in the office. Some people are always the last person in the office.
Oh my God.
Some people have keys so that they can get in on the off hours. Not everybody has that.
You said you were doing some handwriting analysis.
Yes. But I have a problem. Like, it mainly points to our office manager to me, except for the one thing is I said she makes her 8s totally different. Otherwise, the handwriting looks exactly the same.
Well, I guess we're going to have to wait till September 20th at high noon to figure this out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's another clue is it's kind of become a joke in the office because we've had a couple times where we've ended an hour early and kind of done like a happy hour, or for like baseball opening day, we invited other offices to come and have like snacks and drinks with us in the afternoon. And there was a drink called High Noon, and that is something that our boss particularly seems to enjoy.
Wow. I don't know. I just don't know. You could follow so many different threads.
Yeah, like I don't think that he would have had the time to devote to all of this, but I do know that his wife is very involved in like the decorating of our office, supplying our kitchen. She's very type A. She knows all of us. So I could see him roping her in to help.
Ooh, it's a family affair.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so we got in 2 weeks, I will know. It's coming.
Well, we'll be waiting. I'm on the edge of my seat, personally.
This is the most exciting thing that's happened to me in like months.
You're like living the dream. You're like, you're not the Jim Halpert of your office. You're like the person who's watching from the sidelines.
Yeah.
Like,
I watched some of The Office, but not enough to know what character I am.
Okay. That's my comfort show, by the way, bringing it back.
Okay.
Any other updates?
Nope, that's my big one.
That's your big one?
Yep.
Well, I've been depressed.
Fair enough.
That's my update. No, actually, I'm proud of myself because last night I had another like existential meltdown over my job and just being lonely. And instead of do the thing where I just wallow and, sit around and get anxious about who I'm not texting, I actually got up and like started making voice notes. And then I cleaned the bathroom, and then I texted you about the podcast. And before I knew it, 3 hours had passed and I felt better.
Oh, amazing how that works.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of myself. But yeah, I'm so fed up with capitalism right now.
Yeah, you did you say that on one of your Instagram posts? It was just like, I just cried about capitalism.
Yeah. So, yeah, on my fake Instagram, I said that I had been crying about capitalism on video for 10 minutes. And yeah, I made a video where I was basically just like complaining about my job, and it turned into me just crying on camera for 10 whole minutes. Honestly, I think that's what made me feel better, though.
I was just going to say, I probably did.
Oh my God, I've been rubbing my eyes this whole time, and I just realized I'm wearing mascara. Oh God. But yeah, I feel like right now, my life could be way worse. Like, I have a job with flexible hours and okay pay. There's no health insurance and, like, no real room for growth, and it doesn't make me feel fulfilled. But, like, I feel like I'm supposed to be grateful for it, you know?
No. Yeah, honestly, you know what? That sounds like me my first couple of years here in St. Louis when I was working for Charter.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, Charter Spectrum. It's the internet company here.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. And yeah, I was just doing contractor work. So yeah, I didn't get health insurance either or any benefits, but I could make a living. And yeah, it was pretty much just like soul destroying.
Yeah, but soul destroying.
Yeah, but it kept me going. And so yeah.
I used the word spiritual in my video, and it kind of surprised me because like I'm not a spiritual person. If you listen to the podcast for any amount of time, you would know that. But I feel like my job is kind of spiritually incompatible with me. And by that, I mean, like, it's not a mental thing. Because if it were just a mental thing, I could trick myself into being content. But I just feel like spiritually, I cannot continue to just, I don't know, rot away. Like, I don't know.
Like, you need some sort of spark or something to...
I just want to feel like I'm doing something that is, like, in line with my values.
Because, I mean, I'm not... Like, it's not my dream job or anything like that. I could probably get much more fulfillment from a different job, but... You know, mine is at least enough that I feel like I'm doing something worthwhile and people are respecting me sometimes. You know I'm not saving the world or anything. I'm doing accounting for an insurance company, but
I don't expect to save the world. Like, I would be fine with something like that.
I think I just go when I feel like I actually have a purpose. Where for Charter, I felt like, I mean... It felt like a monkey could do my job. It felt like they were looking for things that it was just like, oh, this is simple and brainless. Let's give it to Lauren.
Yeah.
Right.
And yet you're the only one that knows how to do your job, and so you can never leave. At least that's how I feel. It's just... I was going to say something. Oh, yeah. Like, the job that I've been the most happy with was when I was a barista. You know, like, it's obviously, it's not the job itself. It's not the money. It's just a sense of purpose. Like, I love coming in and helping solve a problem. And, like, every day looks different.
Like, you did a thing. And, and the same thing. It's not saving lives, but, you know, people are happy to get their coffee in the morning.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I'm reading this book where... The author is talking about finding a career when you're just like a weird person, not cut out for capitalism. And she talks about finding a career like finding the one, and how when you're like a kid, you think of finding the one and how there's this one person out there for you. Yes. And I have deconstructed that belief once I left, Christianity. But I think I still have that view towards my job. Like, I think I still have this idea that there's this one career out there for me, and when I find it, everything will fall into place. But, like, maybe that's not how it is at all.
That's interesting. I never thought of relating those, because I'm the same way. Like, I have definitely come around full circle from thinking, like, there is, your one soulmate that you will find. But I never thought of jobs like that.
Yeah. The book is called Weird in a World That's Not, by the way.
Good,
so
yes.
It's very good.
Just going to ask you because I would like to check that out.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. I want to hear what you have to talk about today.
Yeah, so I have a topic. It's things that we have touched on before, and I just felt like it's something I've been thinking about recently for some reason again, and I knew it was something that we could rant on, which is just the idea of normalizing the idea of mental health.
Okay. Continue, because I already have so many thoughts.
Yeah. It specifically came up for me actually because my roommate and we've gotten in a routine where when we come home from work, we like to just kind of like unwind. We have a certain TV show that we'll watch, and then we'll have our dinner together and, maybe watch another episode, and then we go up and we do our own thing. And so I had been in the mood. I had watched like half of Desperate Housewives at one point. I was like, I'm in the mood to rewatch that. And I felt like she would really enjoy it. It seems like her kind of like quirky characters and things that she'd like. So we've been watching Desperate Housewives. It came up recently, and it's come up a couple other times in the show. And I've noticed that whenever like somebody in the show just went through a really traumatic event, and her husband suggested after a couple days that she consider therapy, and they always seem to treat therapy as, like, oh, but I'm not crazy, or what will people think, or I wouldn't do something like that. I don't need that.
It sounds like they have kind of an outdated view of therapy. Is that like still a thing? Is what I'm wondering. Like, how is that still a thing?
I was trying to think, like, when did this show come out? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like 2008 at this point, maybe, but I don't know.
Disclaimer, I've never seen Desperate Housewives.
That's okay.
I mean, yeah, 2008 was definitely a long time ago.
Yeah, but I feel like by then that we were better about that. I mean, it feels the same way as waiting for people to finally realize that, like, we shouldn't be treating weed the same way we treat, like, heroin.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a whole other conversation we could get into. Yeah. I mean, I've been noticing a lot more stuff like that in the media that I'm consuming from my early adulthood / childhood, which is, I mean, one of the ways that I'm starting to feel old, honestly, is like The Office and Arrested Development, like those kind of shows. They are really dated in some areas. Like, they say a lot of things on those shows that are just downright not okay, especially, towards women and towards people who aren't able-bodied or neurotypical, whatever.
Right.
There's some really troubling stuff. And the more further back you look, I mean, not even further back, the more that you expand your net, you realize how common it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think watching Desperate Housewives with like the kind of tone that I know the show is going for, I think what maybe bugged me is that they did that. I feel like they were kind of doing that to showcase, to say, like, people need to stop feeling this way, that, they're saying, like, this character is saying, that it's like, oh, that means I'm crazy, so I'm going to reject it. And, they're kind of trying to slide in like, yeah, but they're wrong. So it felt like, like they were coming at a time where we were starting to realize, like, maybe that's not always the case. But I feel like today we're still kind of stalled in that spot. I think that was what kind of like bummed me out, is I'm like, we're still kind of at like, no, really, you have to convince everybody. It's not a big deal. And people are still skeptical, like, I don't know. And I guess
I'm lucky that I haven't experienced a lot of that in my life. Maybe because, like, I mostly hang out with people who are younger than me and who have, like, more liberated views on this. I feel like I haven't experienced a lot of the stigma, like, in recent years at least. The people in my life are pretty accepting that anything that requires therapy is, like, a legitimate concern, and that mental health is health. I'm wondering if you have more incidents where you do experience that stigma in real life.
Well, I would think that it's like perfectly illustrated by the differences between us, where, your family knows you have this podcast. Nobody that I talk to not nobody, but very few people that I talk to in real life know that I have this.
I just can't imagine that. Like,
you said, like, your boss drove you to alcohol rehab, right? Or was it an eating disorder treatment? One of them.
Yeah. My boss literally drove me to eating disorder treatment.
Yeah, where, like, clearly I don't let anyone at my work know.
I do have regrets about that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. At least I tend to approach it in a different way now. Not because I'm ashamed of it, but because there's complications that do arise when you let people in.
Yes. But I know for me, a big thing was feeling that was like, I don't want them to start, I don't know, I don't want their minds to start wandering like, oh, she has these problems. Can she do her job?
But I guess that's why we need to normalize it.
Exactly.
Oh, man, yeah. Like, in a perfect world, what would it look like if this was normalized for us?
I mean, in a perfect world, sadly, I don't know how to change this part because I feel like it's how I internally would feel as well, because part of it is me feeling embarrassed and everything. If I'm like, in a perfect world, I would be able to say, hey, I'm struggling and I need to go to eating disorder treatment, the same way that I could say like, hey, I broke my leg last night and it's pretty bad. I'm not going to be able to come into work for a few weeks.
Yeah, exactly. One of those things causes people to bring into question our competence.
Exactly.
And the other doesn't.
Yeah, why not? Shouldn't they be like, can she walk up the stairs without destroying herself?
If someone came to me and told me that they were going through, a rough time and they needed a break for their mental health, I would feel like more respectful of them.
But that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, that's where we're coming from. I don't know. I guess I am more insecure about it. I find myself running into a different problem, switching gears a little bit. I feel like my problem is when I meet people and I start befriending them and telling them about myself, usually it's people that I have deemed safe in advance. Yes. And they're often people that also have trauma. And so when we connect, we trauma dump, to put it lightly. Like, we trauma bond.
Yeah, okay.
We tell each other everything kind of right away. At least that's how I do it these days. And as a result, once that you get that out of the way, I feel like it's hard to figure out like what else to talk about.
Oh,
it's like okay,
why
now that
else do we connect?
Yeah, it's kind of like treatment friends. Like, we've talked about making friends in treatment and escalating friendships that way because you're all in this similar situation. You don't have to do small talk. You all know this thing about each other right off the bat, and so you connect faster. But then, like, I've had treatment friends that have kind of, like, fallen out of my life once we're both out because we don't have as much in common.
Right.
And, like, that's a whole other thing where maybe we've normalized it too much. Well, no, that's not the problem. I don't know. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that just happens like in that sort of specific situation. Like, I don't think that's the world at large sort of response, but I do agree. And I'm starting to wonder, like, I wonder if that is because before finding yourself in that sort of situation, I mean, at least I'm thinking for me that I would be so embarrassed to tell everyone, thinking no one's going to understand this, or anything like that. And then you get somewhere where everybody knows. And so it's just such a relief to be like, I can dump all my shit and I know you're not going to reject me.
Yeah. But then that becomes like what you're known for. And you feel like you can't contribute small talk because you're being inauthentic. At least that's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah. And I know saying that's what you're known for, that's kind of like what holds me back still from friends here that don't experience the same thing is, if I feel like they're close friends and they're not going to, they're not going to reject me just because like I am a person that had a problem, then, I've told some people, but I don't want to continue to tell them like, hey, I'm struggling again and all this kind of stuff, because I don't want them to just think of me as that, like, oh, that's the, our friend that has like severe depression and eating disorder and anxiety.
Yeah,
that's who she is.
How healthy is it to normalize this stuff to that extent within friendships, to where maybe, I mean, like your example, you kind of fall back into that pattern of having a lapse or being unwell and going to your friends for support, and it happens again and again. And I don't know if that's something I want to normalize, but like, regardless, it's happening. And so you're like, in that situation, your friends can either accept it. Like, what's the line between accepting it and normalizing it in that way and like being like, hey, I noticed you do this. Are you okay?
Well, I don't know.
You know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, because it's almost still like just like normalizing the idea in general that, like some people have like serious mental health issues and I don't know, that it's kind of like maybe you have to trust enough that they know how to deal with it, because I think that is part of it too, is that people that can be sympathetic still see it as this big thing. You know, if you know, like, a friend struggles with severe depression, then it's kind of like, do I always have to be watching out for them? Like, if they seem kind of off, you know, do I have to, like, be really concerned and everything? And so I think that's why it becomes a big deal to the other person, even if they have been let in and understand to some degree that they don't necessarily understand that it doesn't have to be a tragedy every time. They don't have to save you.
Yeah.
That's a good one. They don't have to save you.
Yeah.
Just because you let them in.
Exactly.
A normalized view would be, you know, like, you know, your friend has severe depression. And so sometimes they don't respond to you for a long time. And so because you know that, you don't take it personally. You say, like, hey, they're probably going through something right now. And, you know, maybe just like a quick little, like, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here. If not, that's cool. We're not normalizing it whilst not rejecting it would be someone knowing that and feeling like they're on pins and needles. Like, every time they're just like, oh no, is this person seem really down? Do I have to, you know, like, make sure that I, like, am aware of their whereabouts 24/7 because I'm responsible for their life now that I know they have depression?
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't normalize it, but don't reject it either. Like, that is so important to just know that I have someone there that will say, yeah, this sucks, and it shouldn't be normal, but I'm here for you, and, like, however long it takes you to go through this.
Because I guess, like, if I knew somebody had a chronic illness that was, you know, more like a physical thing, like MS or something like that, then I wouldn't be, like, trying to figure out how they could solve it every time I see them, or say, I don't know. It would just be something I'd know, like, oh yeah, you know, my friend has this, you know, it's a bum rap in life, but everyone has theirs.
I think a lot of people mistake normalization for resolution.
Yeah.
We can only talk about this if there's a clear fix in sight.
Yeah, like, I need to be actively being a help and fixing this if I'm going to be supportive. It's like, sometimes being supportive is just knowing.
Yeah, you can't normalize something that's unattainable, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like when I started the podcast, that was my big thing, like, normalizing. I think I used the word normalize a bunch in my very first episode.
Okay.
So it's interesting that now I find myself kind of at a loss for words when we talk about this.
Well, and it makes sense saying that, because I think you saying that makes me feel like in the beginning, when I felt, like, frustrated that these kind of things weren't normalized, I think I mistook normalizing for broadcasting.
Talk about that a little more.
That I felt like normalizing meant, like, I should feel like I can speak all my problems all the time and no one's going to, I don't know, like, say something I don't like in response. That's not really it, because, like, an illness or something that I would say, you know, is normalized does not mean that you have to, like, announce it to everybody immediately, like, this is me, this is what I deal with.
For some reason right now I'm thinking of COVID and how that has kind of been normalized for better or for worse, right? In our society.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It used to be, you know, it was a bigger deal if you got COVID. And now, again, for better or for worse, it's kind of run of the mill when someone gets it. It's just like a quick text to your boss, hey, I tested positive for COVID. I can't come in for 5 days. Like, that's just become normalized.
That's a great example, because I know in the very beginning, I mean, like, the very, very beginning, it was a big deal where it's like, I know somebody that got COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's like, I know just about everybody who's gotten COVID.
Yeah. Maybe normalizing it isn't telling people and, like, expecting just blind acceptance, but maybe just opening a conversation. Because that is still something that's hard for me, like we talked about.
Yeah. And normalizing doesn't have to look like activism. You know, you don't have to be like,
oh my God, yeah,
the leader championing. Point. Yeah.
That's something I do too. I seem to think that if I'm not actively, publicly making a difference, then I'm not making a difference at all.
Yeah, and I think that's something with me too, is if I am going to say something, I feel like I have to be like, and, like, this is what needs to change, and maybe I could just say, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I also have green eyes.
That is one thing that this woman talks about in the book, the career book, is just, rather than focusing on turning yourself into someone you're not for interviewers, for instance, just leaning into your authentic self and showing up and being like, this is me. Here are my strengths. I'm not going to hide my weaknesses, but like, this is me. And that's very hard to do because it means being vulnerable.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite word.
Vulnerable. Great discussion all around.
I told you I didn't come in with, like a lot of preparation. I just had a topic to rant about. And I feel like that's been illustrated really well by like us making points and just kind of dropping them and being silent. Like,
well, let's normalize that. I love it. Like, I think we do need to normalize like just having these open conversations where maybe we don't know what the point is.
Yeah. And, we went off on a bunch of different ways. I know I was thinking in the middle of the conversation, like, oh boy, I hope people have responses to this one because I'm not even sure what I'm thinking. I want to hear what they're thinking.
Seriously, like, what does this mean to you, listener? Like, what is normalization? Normalization. Why is that so hard to say?
Yeah, just tell us what this all made you think about.
What did this make you think about? I am going to Boston in a couple weeks.
Ooh.
And I wanted to say before I forget that if there are any listeners in Boston that want to meet up, that would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now it's just awkward.
I don't have an exact date, but you said that and I was like, oh, I'm planning to go to Chicago at some point in the nearish future. So if anyone's in Chicago.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say is like, we're on the road sometimes and I want to meet up with people. I've done that in the past. When I moved to Seattle, I stopped in Spokane, Washington and met up with this person that I met in like 2008. And they were on the podcast on like episode 3, I think it was. That was the first time I did that. Oh. And so after that, I just kind of made it a goal to do that again. So yeah, if you live in the Boston area and you want to chat, show me some sites, hit me up.
Yeah. And if I have a Chicago date and people are around there, I will also publicize that.
We're acting like people are just like...
Just waiting. No. Just anxiously waiting for us to show up at their door.
But yeah, hit us up if you have thoughts about this episode. Hit us up if you want to be a guest. And hit us up if you want to see us in person for some reason in Boston or Chicago at undetermined dates. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast. You can follow my personal Instagram account at xtinajumper.
You can follow mine at Pico Suave, Picosauve. It's
her dog.
Yes. I feel like I say that every single time. I mean, unless this is your very first episode, it's my dog.
I know. I was just waiting for you to say it. And then there was a giant lag and it made everything awkward.
That's us. Awkward.
We'd better go now.
Okay.
Until next week, y'all. Bye.
Bye.